one of the things that has happened in Louisiana, and I'm going to start in 1896, so just get comfortable. Okay. We started making movies here. Before there was a Hollywood, we had studios on Bayou St. John. And as some of you know and participated in, we placed a marker a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, for the Vitascope Hall, which was the first movie theater in America, and it opened on Canal Street in 1896. So we have a long tradition of being in movies. Some of the first movie stars were right here. And there's tons of stories I could go into, and maybe you'll hear a few of them today, maybe. But what I want you to hear now is the experience of people who are working in movies today, because we have a tremendous ability to put people on the screen and have them seen all over the world. So whatever your goal is, there's some way to get it done. So let me start by asking our panelists to introduce themselves. Okay, Susie.
Hello there, I'm Susie Labry, and I'm a citizen advocate at the Capitol, standing in the interest of the film industry tax credits. And I've been an extra in more than 330 movies and an actor in some.
Bill Rainey. I have been in the business for 12 years. I started as an extra and just built from there. I can't match Susie, I've been in 231 different productions as an extra, stand-in, precision driver, and look forward to answering some questions y'all may have.
I'm Naulty. I'm an actor and stuntman, born and raised here in Slidell. I started out roughly 10 years ago doing background work, and now I've appeared on multiple network shows that y'all have all worked on. And I've made the transition from background to cast member. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Hi, I'm Nicole Ferrier, and I'm an actress who does a lot of extra work. I've been doing it for about 8 years, and I really like it. It's something that I think is very rewarding.
Fantastic. Okay, let's start with the question of what made you want to do movies? Was it something you intentionally went out to do, or was it accidental?
Well, when I was in college years ago, I did a commercial for News Scene 8, Channel 8 News here in New Orleans, and we won an Addy Award. That was a speaking part, and there were only 2 actors in it, me and someone else. But anyway, that was the start of it, and my major is communications and public relations, so it was sort of hand in hand that this would attract me. But then about 8 years ago, by accident, I was on a naval base, and they were asking for people to become extras in one of the NCISs. So I said, sure, why not? And I did it, and it was fun, exciting. I met new people. I've always been fascinated by the cameras and the equipment that they use to make the movies and the TV shows, and I thought, you know, it's something that I felt attracted to. So 8 years ago, I started doing work as an extra, and I really like it. I do get a lot of work, and I'm happy about that. It's never boring, and there are times where you have to, usually, you go in, you do your fittings. Sometimes you have to get fittings once or twice before the actual day of filming. After that, you go ahead and you get your makeup and hair done. After that, it's time to go shoot what the scene that you're supposed to do. So it's not really like it was in the very beginning. I don't know if you all agree that you had time that you wasted. I find now, in the last couple of years, you don't waste your time. You're there, you're busy, it's interesting, and it's a great experience.
Accidental. Yeah, it was a little accidental. In my younger years, I fought mixed martial arts, and I was in a mixed martial arts magazine, and a guy reached out to me on Facebook that was doing an independent film about fighting. So I worked on it. So after I did that first project, I ended up doing a few weeks on it, and I told myself if I could do this every day, I'd be happy. So
Just do it like this.
For about 2 or 3 years, I did background work 4 or 5 days a week. Same crew, same people every day. Y'all could attest. Background was the same on every show. Treme, every scene's the same background. And slowly from there, I finally get an agent. I got my first speaking role, started doing auditions, and here we are today, I guess.
Well, mine wasn't by accident. I got an early retirement from Cox Communications. I spent 22 years there, and my daughter said, "Dad, you got to find something to do because our family's always been workaholics." So I started as an extra, and it just built from there, and it's a labor of love. I did so many things for free in the beginning, and just loved it. I'm not in this to make money.
I started with a life and assassination of the kingfish, and as a youngster, a young
Closer,
teen.
Susie.
Can y'all hear me? I got a loud voice. I started out in 1975 as an extra in the life and assassination of the kingfish, and as a young person, a teen, always fascinated with celebrities and the limelight, being famous and everything, and it's the excitement that went with being movies, and that's how I started. They had a casting call for Life and Assassination of the Kingfish, and that was very exciting because I love movies and politics and bluegrass country music, and that's all three of my hats together. And really, I've enjoyed every minute of it ever since to the end, and I have not wasted any time. I did not see it as an investment, even though it's an investment. I enjoy the process. I see this as a time, quality time to be with my friends and to network and just have a good old time. Being an extra takes you places where you would never otherwise be, whether you were rich or not. You go places where other people don't go. You want to travel, you go places, and it's a great experience, which I appreciate, and I thank God for.
Thank you. I think we've got an idea now that, especially in the beginning of the industry in Louisiana, as it was building here, a lot of things happened accidentally. You would just bump into somebody who knew something, who needed someone, and we didn't have the database we have now. Well, right now, we've got casting agencies. We've got people, we've got Facebook. I mean, I get notices every day of calls and people looking for something or someone for cast or crew. So how has that affected you, especially you who have been doing this longer? Has it made it easier? Is there more competition? Are you able to do, Nicole talked about how everything's organized now, and I could talk about that because that has to do with production technology and what we're able to do. But how has it affected you, having everything on Facebook and electronics and your cell phone and things like that, Susie?
It's affected me pretty good. The only thing that interrupted through the monkey wrench was the COVID that kind of threw me out of the loop. But I've been through the history of casting from Rick Landry back in and Dee Cothern, Baton Rouge, and Rick Landry from New Orleans in the area, and I've seen the evolution and history of casting from the person through job service, through casting calls, would be in the newspaper and on the news and by voice, and like when you're in a cafe or something, you hear it by voice, by people telling you about it. And then I started doing a lot of vast networking, and one of the champion networkers in the world when it comes to people meeting people. And I started collecting a database and got out there and met everybody I knew that was in casting. And I'm also involved in politics, because sometimes politics can get you in there. They'll knock on your door and say, we're needing extras, from my position all the way up to the governor of Louisiana. The technology, Louisiana Casting came in, and with Liz Coulon, and it's more efficient. With the technology coming in, that kind of watered down my network ability, because everything used to be done in cafes and schools and forums and places like this, people's houses and all that. So it's a little bit different now, and how you network. Your telephone, the meeting in person, the newspaper, public meetings, the meetup.com, networkers, Christmas parties, and all. But now it is different. You just wait, and it makes it easier on the casting director because you pick what cities and what times you want to work, and it makes it real nice for them. But one thing I want to remind you, if you're going to commit to something, please stay committed, you know, and that helps you do that. It helps you change your mind at the last minute.
Well, Susie is correct. When casting companies were looking for people, the unemployment office is what was their main source. You had to go to the Louisiana unemployment office like you would go looking for any job. That's where it all got started, and it basically has evolved from there. After being in the business for 2 years, I started a page on Facebook called The Holding Tent, and I now have 23,000 members. And just to make sure that everything got on there, I made all of the casting directors administrators, so they can go to my page and put the jobs on right there themselves. They didn't, in the beginning, they were just contacting me. That wasn't working. So once I gave all the casting directors administrative rights, it really changed things. But the big thing that's happened is My Casting File. My Casting File is just such a fantastic source, and I support them 100%. I used to try putting the jobs from there on my page, but that was just too cumbersome, and especially right now, there's so much going on. But social media has really evolved and made it a lot easier to find work.
Bill, what's the name of your page again?
The Holding Tent. You can go to theholdingtent.com, or you can go to Facebook under The Holding Tent. It's a group that you can join.
And that's Holding, Holding.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where us extras hang out, in the Holding Tent, and that's where I came up with that name.
Good. That's a great branding.
Yeah, it's just so fitting, and I made sure I started an LLC and copyrighted it so, you know, nobody else could copycat, which is so common nowadays.
This is the entrepreneurial spirit that makes the film industry work. Okay. Okay.
It's been a few years since I've done any background work, but as Mr. Bill said, when we first started, the pool of background was probably 100, 200 people tops, rotating on every show. Now it's 23,000. It's pretty crazy. But with casting, since COVID, it's also changed because we no longer do live auditions. We do self-tapes. So instead of having to go to the studio to audition for, say, Ryan Glorioso live, you tape it, send it in. Even most of the callbacks now are virtual, which is a complete change from the entire way the industry's always been. And Zoom, which is, having a live callback audition on a Zoom is very, very strange, but you get used to it. And the Facebook groups, I'm in a lot of them still, and it's crazy the amount of traffic and jobs that go through there every day. It's mind-blowing compared to the other states that have the film industries as well.
Thanks, Austin. I agree. Louisiana, mainly the New Orleans area, there are a lot of jobs for acting, and it's exciting and thrilling to be in it. I find the new technology has helped a lot. It's helped me a lot. MyCastingFile.com is definitely the way to go when you want to get parts as actors and extras. I have Caballero Casting, and for most of the things that I do it through Caballero. They're really good. They're in Baton Rouge, but they have an office in New Orleans now. But the My Casting File, I highly recommend to anyone. And with COVID now, we have to all get tested every other day for the set because they're very cautious and they're very careful. You wear your mask. When it's time to shoot the part, you take the mask off. But that's something that's going to continue, I would assume, for a good while because of COVID.
Okay, I think we've got some good basic information here and some tips on where to go. I'd like to open it up for questions, and you can direct your questions to individual panelists or me or any, whatever you would like to do. So, any questions? If not, I'm going to start telling Hollywood stories. Okay. The first time I was ever involved in casting, I was working at HBO Pictures, and we made feature films. And Penny Perry was our contract casting agent. She was phenomenal. You've seen her name on dozens and dozens of films. So I suddenly realized there was a new file cabinet, one of those legal file cabinets that's like 4 feet wide and 4 drawers deep. And it was nothing but headshots of actors. And they were all under consideration for a film called The Hitcher. And this was in 1983 or 84. And the star was Rutger Hauer. He was he was going to be the star. And then C. Thomas Howell was cast, but they didn't have the young girl yet. So through the office were traipsing some of the prettiest young women I have ever seen. They were all very petite. They were all extremely talented, because you don't get to the level of a feature film star without talent. But Penny knew what she was looking for, and Jennifer Jason Leigh got the part. And I had never heard of her, but I certainly knew who she was when that movie was done. So casting is something that used to be a very physical thing. Now, Penny is still casting. She does a lot of the Hallmark movies, and because that's like rolling off a log for her, you know, and she loves it, and she gets paid extremely well, and she knows everybody. So it's easy for her to call up people and know whether they're busy or not and bring them in to shoot. And she's gotten some pretty major stars to do Hallmark movies. But now everything is done on her phone. She can cast a movie. You know, it's that different. So it has definitely changed. But working in Louisiana is a wide open opportunity. Again, anybody have a question? Yes, Lori.
I'd like to ask the panel, you all have been very, very successful, and congratulations on the forum, very successful in winning multiple projects, getting on multiple projects, et cetera, film, television, what have you. What is it that you do to stand out? How are you that successful? Because I bet, you know, Nicole and I are very good friends, and she's been very successful of late. What do you do to stand out above all of the other, you know, possible casting folks? What is it that you do? The potentials. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. That's Lori Guillaume, everybody.
One of the things that I would say that makes me stand out is the fact that I communicate well with the agencies. I always make it a point to be on time, follow the directions that they give us, do what they say, and make sure that you can really relate to the scene. Because if you cannot get into the scene of whatever they're asking the people to do, that's not going to sit well for when it's time to remember who do we want to put in the next scene, or who do we want to put in the next movie or TV show. So I think that has a lot to do with it. You have to really find that whatever the scene is, make yourself a part of it. Show interest, don't just be there. You need to be there mentally and physically.
That's a good question. For me, I think it would just be my look. In the beginning, back when I started doing background work, I was typecasted as the bad guy, the cop. So as I got older and I started evolving in my career, I got tattoos, I shaved my head. So now all the auditions I get are still the same stuff I was doing as background, but it's a little more varied. I have headshots and scrubs, so I audition for doctors and other things. Like for commercial headshots, you don't see my tattoos because you can cover them up, and then it's a whole different person. So that's how I kind of try to break the mold and open it up to where I can do various things instead of just the same old normal things, I guess.
Well, just to expand what Austin and Nicole said, that's basically good information. The way I felt that I stood out is I was willing to do anything, anywhere, at any time, and I didn't care what the pay was. Dependability is the most critical thing. I've heard other extras, they commit to something, like Susie said before about staying committed, and then they get another offer that's going to pay them more money. Don't do that. Stick with your original offer. You don't want to always be looking, because you're establishing your reputation. And it's just so critical. And again, what Nicole said, you really need to immerse yourself in a scene. When you're going to do the scene, really immerse yourself in it. And if the PA gives you direction and you do exactly what they say and then they come back to you and tell you it was wrong, do not defend yourself. Just say okay, because probably what happened, their instructions come to them in their ear from the director, and they give you that, and then the directors are constantly changing their mind. They don't want you to explain yourself, oh, I did this because, no, just say, okay, and take in what they told you and move on from there.
That may be the most valuable thing you hear today. Go ahead, Susie.
Today, my advice is for everybody to know about mycastingfile.com. You need to fill out a profile for that, and also get on file with Central Casting in New Orleans. This is what I tell everybody. The next thing you need to do is get on all these sites like the Holding Tent, the Meetup.coms, film industry groups, and you go to parties, you go to forums like this, you go to the Meetup meetings, Wayne Morgan and all, they announce casting calls, you watch the papers, and you network. The reason I got successful, in my opinion, is because I networked to death. Be willing to volunteer. I volunteered in tons of movies, and I enjoyed it just as much as if I got paid. You enjoy your position. It shines. You have a good attitude. Please, please, please don't ask when this is over or when we're going to go home. Don't ask for autographs. Sit down there and enjoy yourself. So networking is my word for doing it. Get to know people and friends. Call each other's friends. Hey, know the casting directors. There are many times when casting directors were looking for extras. Oh, I got 100 extras here. Oh, good. 5 minutes is all done.
Thank you, Susie. Okay, does anyone else have a question? All right, I want to tell you one more casting story. I was working at United Artists, and I was in the office on a Sunday afternoon. And yes, even movie studios work 7 days a week sometimes. So I happened to have a person in the office next to me you might have heard of. Her name is Karen Rosenfeld, and she produced the Twilight movies. So Karen, at that time, was in her early 20s, and I thought of her as a little girl who had the job because her father was an executive someplace. And she was a vice president, so I was kind of mistaken in my attitude. But Karen was on the phone, and she was desperately seeking a star because the star of the movie had just gotten pregnant and wasn't going to be able to shoot when they needed to in Australia, I think. So what made the story even more interesting is it wasn't one of our movies. Karen was helping a friend. So there is a level of cooperation and communication that goes on way beyond what you could be aware of. You may not know, but as Susie was saying, and everyone has brought up, as Bill mentioned, your reputation is the most critical part of your career, especially when you're starting. So when you are willing and do what they need, it can really make a difference. I mean, I even did volunteer work when I started really young. Luckily, I developed some skills that people were willing to pay for. But I would say another thing that I would add to what you've heard today is to develop as many skills as you can. If you've ever been around a movie set or supported the industry, you know that it's not just about being an extra. An extra can suddenly be an assistant to the director. You just don't know. Not the assistant director, but assistant to a director, because it has a lot to do with how your personality clicks with other people on the set. And the final thing I want to say is, if you are truly interested in working in movies, being an extra is a great way to learn, to see how the system works, to meet people, to see what you don't want to do. I was an extra in a film that none of you are old enough to remember called Drum. It was shot in the French Quarter, and it was a major production. Ken Norton was the star, and they cast women who were under 5'3" to be extras. We were the background just to make him look bigger, which, I mean, the man was big enough already, you know. But it was an experience I never wanted to repeat, because in those days, unlike what Nicole was saying, you go in and do your job now, we had to stand around and wait. And the technology was very different. Focusing a camera could take an hour and a half, you know, where now it's like 22 seconds or something. So I would say that this is the perfect time to get into this business, because it's only going to grow. It's only going to grow. There will be more films. As we expand the capacity for film in Louisiana, there will be more happening, and they're going to need people. So all 23,000 of those people may be on call one of these days. Okay. So if there are no more questions, we're going to call it a day right now and be back for more sessions. Go ahead, please. The question is, do our panel members train? Do they have coaches? How do they keep increasing their skills in the business?
You don't really need to be trained to be an extra. What you learned in the first grade and then through Sunday school, you know the rules, obey the rules, like the rules I recited. Don't ask for autographs, don't ask for pictures, you know, have a good attitude and all. Just, you know, protocols and decent living is what you need to know. But a lot of us want to advance and be actors and other positions behind the camera and over the camera. And I wanted to mention, yes, I've taken classes, Valika Gray, Jerry Katz, and Debbie Goday, and many, many others. That is another way to network. Go on auditions and take classes. That's another way to find out if they need extras. Because there's a lot of classes I learned about where they're going to have casting calls and all. And casting directors do attend your classes, and it pays to take these classes and workshops. I'll go to workshops too. Many people will know you. So when you go on an audition, you may not get that first audition, but you'll get, you might get a future audition, or you may get an extra part, like some movies I auditioned for and didn't get, because I just plumb didn't look the part. And the casting director loved me, and they put me to work. Everything you learn helps, because if you're a better extra, you never know you can be on top. You take the room, you be in the scene wholeheartedly, and it has acting classes sure have helped me, and I thank these teachers for being a part in my success.
You know, as I listen to Linda and my co-panelists here, there's just so many things being said and just so very many things not being said. There's misconceptions about being an extra. People actually, Bill, what kind of experience do you need to be an extra? I said, you have to be able to breathe. And as Austin pointed out, extras, it can be somebody who's crippled, blind, bald, fat, skinny. That's because movies and TV shows are about life. So anybody can be an extra. Don't ever be, you're not limited because of some handicap or because you might, as my good friend here deals with, how you say it, Asperger's? Asperger's. I mean, the opportunity is out there for anybody. And you learn, to your question, you learn on the job. I hear Susie talking about taking classes, but when I got in this business, I was retired. I didn't want to be an actor. I didn't want to have to memorize lines. I just wanted to have fun. So of my 231 productions, I only spoke 5 times. And it was because I was asked to speak on set. So whatever you're looking for, the opportunity is unbelievable. And we could never tell you everything here in this panel what really it's all about. There's so much to learn.
My biggest pet peeve in film is when you hear people say, if you want to be an actor, don't do background work. My question is, why? 11 years ago, I started doing the background work, and I learned. I went to work, and I paid attention. The language, the names of the crew positions, everything. It's a whole different world once you start paying attention to it. And I did it for years. And fast forward to today, I'm starring alongside Taryn Edgerton in a new series on Apple coming in a few months. But without the extra work, I wouldn't have learned the things that I did learn to be where I am today. So, as y'all would say, I support the extra work. You never know what's going to happen, who you're going to meet. I have friends that were PAs that now today are directing network shows. It's like a snowball. Once you start rolling, you just build as long as you keep on and don't give up.
Thank you. No, you don't have to go through training to become an extra. With me, I had a background in public speaking, conducting meetings, being around people constantly, having departments that had a lot of employees in it. So I was used to being around people. So when it came time to actually start doing work as an extra, I felt comfortable being with other people. And something that Linda touched on with the skills, when you do your profile, they also ask, what types of skills do you have? Do you ride a bike? Can you ice skate? Can you roller skate? All kinds of questions. So when you have a background and ability to do this, that, and the other, and you fit the bill for what they're looking for, because a lot of times they may be looking for a specific person. For example, if you are a double and you're working as a double for someone, you have to pretty much fit their description to be cast in that position. So it's important that you correctly fill in your profile. When they ask on mycastingfile.com, what is your profile, make sure you fill everything in, your measurements, your height, just everything they ask, make sure you fill it in, because it's important for when it's time to get cast that they pick the right person and that you're the right person. But as for some of the things, none of that matters. So it just depends.
It's a wide open business, and it will change tomorrow. There will be something different. There'll be something new. So if you are interested in the industry, it's a great place to be paid to learn. It's a great place to be paid to learn. And although it's not for me, because I get bored so easily, but I learned that. And that's another thing I would recommend. Try everything, because it's just as important to learn what you don't want to do as it is to learn what you want to do. It's all going to help you. And I think that in this day and age, there is an opportunity for everyone who wants to be involved, and you can do it without the stress and strain of putting 100 miles a day on your car, going from casting call to casting call. So I recommend it highly, and I want to thank you all. Bill?
Linda, I'd like to say one more thing to expand on what you said about learning all positions. In this business, that when the movie's over, you're out of a job. So you want to try to learn as many positions as you can, because then you can go on to the next production, and you may be able to do something that they're looking for. So you want to just totally learn the business. And I also have the same pet peeve, Austin, don't do background work. I mean, and then the people who get one speaking role, and all of a sudden they're not going to do background work anymore. That's insane.
Well,
One last thing, and because I could talk for hours, is don't try to work as an extra and pay your mortgage.
Oh,
You
boy.
cannot make a living as an extra. That's totally impossible.
Okay, it's supplemental income, but it's a good supplement. One more thing. I was looking at, as Movie Poster Archives, I get a lot of old pictures from the industry, and one came up from a movie shoot in the 1950s. The background included an actor that we know now as a star, but at that point, he was a background, and it was Rodney Dangerfield. Okay, so if he can do that, can go from there to one of the premier stand-up comics in the world. Just imagine what you could do. Yes, his popularity kicked in when he was in his 60s. But, so look for a long-range career. So thank you all for being here. I hope we've given you some good information, a tad of inspiration, and that you'll keep coming to the sessions because we have some great ones planned today. Thank you all. And panelists, thank you.